Yeah. I mean, look, the piece is pretty bad because it's not thoughtful, it's not considered. It very much is him. It's like a vibe, right? He's basically saying like,
Yes.
look, I feel good, right? Like the AI, I see
Yes.
things about the AI that I like, and I choose to just focus on those and let me brighten your day by telling you things that make me feel good about the AI, right? But it's just bad as a piece of analysis. It's not representing the other side at all.
Welcome to For Humanity, an AI Risk podcast, episode number 41. David Brooks, Dead Wrong on AI. I'm John Sherman, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. For Humanity is the AI Risk podcast for the general public. No tech background required. This show is solely about the threat of human extinction from artificial intelligence. This week's show is going to be a little bit different. I'm really pissed off. Honestly, I am upset. I've had a rough week. More on that at the end of the show, but that is not why I'm upset. The esteemed David Brooks of the New York Times wrote a piece on July 31st entitled, "Many People Fear AI, They Shouldn't." 7 people that I love sent me the link to his article. Did you see this, John? My college buddy wrote. Is he too optimistic? My mom texted me, newly hopeful. They all know about this podcast, but most of them don't watch it because the end of all tomorrows is just a very, very hard thing for people to think about and talk about. I get that. And so I'm giving those people that I love the space and time to see our brutal reality for what it is. But David Brooks's piece let them all off the hook. He told them everything is going to be okay. I have never read a more irresponsible piece of journalism on AI in my life. So for our show this week, tech CEO and AI risk reduction leader, Liron Shapira, who hosts the Doom Debates podcast, and I will go through David Brooks's article line by line, wading through his dangerous, uninformed, arrogant, reckless word soup. But before we do that, I'd like to read a personal letter I've written for David Brooks. I really hope that he watches this show. You can send it to him directly to his email at dabrooks@nytimes.com. Please do that, all of you. Dear David, I sent you an email asking to come on this show. Please consider it an open invitation. I'm John Sherman. For the past 41 weeks with no break, I have come into my office to shoot this podcast on the weekend, and then the work on it continues all week. I don't take breaks because the experts say there is no time. I am doing this for my kids. I have 18-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. I understand you have a son and he is older. But I'm sure your parental instinct never dims. David, you need to know. Your son is in grave danger from AI. I mean this quite literally. Parental instinct is why I'm spending half of my waking hours working to raise public awareness about the existential dangers that AI poses to humans. And David, I need to tell you, you kind of broke my heart. In a few short hours, with a flurry of keystrokes, you have done more to bring the world closer to AI doom than all I have ever done to push it the other way combined. You have so much power. How could you do this? My merry band of now 5,500 plus YouTube subscribers grows every week. I get emails from dads and moms all over the world. Every week. They hear the experts. They see the threat. But you're the journalist. And not just any journalist. People value David Brooks's words and ideas greatly. You have the rare ability to profoundly influence the public debate. So how can you be so far off from reality? David, your view of AI is a radical, fringe view. Polling shows 80% of the public clearly sees the dangers and risks you are so blind to. And yet you make no mention of the basics of AI risk in your piece on why AI is not a risk. Here are the basics of AI risk in 4 bullets. It is not hard to grasp or to write. 1, the frontier labs openly admit their technology can end all life on Earth. 2, they openly admit they cannot control their technology. 3, they openly admit they do not understand how their technology works. And 4, they spend all their time and money making it stronger, not safer. You didn't mention any of this on your piece on why there is no reason to fear AI. Which leaves me wondering who and what are your sources? I've never worked for the New York Times, but I did pick up this Peabody Award at the age of 29 for investigative journalism. I got it for environmental investigative reporting, but you see, I'm not a scientist, so I always needed experts in my stories. You are not an AI researcher or a computer scientist, and yet your piece quotes exactly 0 AI risk experts. How is that possible? Who are you talking to gain this extreme, fringe perspective on AI risk? Are you aware that thousands of leading academic and corporate leaders signed a 22-word statement in May 2023 that reads, "Mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war"? All the big AI CEOs signed it. Sam Altman, Demis Hassabis, Dario Amodei. Have you ever heard of Professor Stuart Russell of Cal Berkeley or Max Tegmark of MIT? They all signed that statement saying that AI has an extinction risk alongside nuclear war and pandemics, but their view is more dire than even that. They think we are all likely to die from AI in our lifetimes. So do AI godfathers Geoffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio, both of whom used to make frontier AI models, and now both say they regret their life's work because they believe there's an unacceptable risk that AI will literally kill them, their families, you, me, your kids, my kids, in the next few years. What could you possibly know, David Brooks, about AI that Geoffrey Hinton does not? With all due respect, sir, who the fuck do you think you are? How dare you, with absolutely nothing to back it up, tell millions of your readers that AI is nothing to fear? Elon Musk gives AI a 30% chance of ending all life on Earth. Paul Christiano, the head of the U.S. AI Safety Institute, gives AI a 50% chance of ending all life on Earth. How the hell did you get to 0%? Did you not think it worth including that OpenAI CEO Sam Altman openly admits in his own exact words AI could mean, quote, lights out for all of us? Many people fear AI. They shouldn't. Your headline reads, David, you need to stop writing dangerous bullshit about AI and start learning about AI risk right now. I have a great respect for the New York Times and for much of your past work in particular. Fortunately for you and for humanity, your seat of power affords you the chance to right this wrong. For my kids and your son, please watch the following interview. We're going to review every word you wrote and offer some informative commentary. Then please fix what you did. Tell the world You were wrong about AI. Do it for our kids. Sincerely, John Sherman, Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, friends, please hit like, subscribe, share, donate to spread the word if you can. Leave me a comment, send me an email, forhumanitypodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what's on your mind. Your emails of support from near and far mean the world to me. Here is my interview with Liron Shapira on David's piece. Let's break this thing down, sentence by sentence. Okay, so this David Brooks piece has me pretty fucking irate. Like, you and I are sitting here. You and I spend a whole lot of our own time in an effort to save our kids and the world. And in 5 minutes, David Brooks told millions of people, we're nuts. Everything we're doing is bullshit. Everything's okay. And there are millions of people that will say the New York Times and David Brooks said there's nothing to fear. So they will dismiss the most important issue in human history altogether for a long time now.
I mean, it's just one article, right? I mean, we're also getting a lot of articles saying that there is something to fear, right? Like Ezra Klein, I think, has some good coverage. So why are you so concerned about one article?
I got this thing sent to me by like 7 people. Everyone in my life knows what I'm doing. No one is watching this fucking show. Nobody in my personal life watches the podcast. But there's this desire for the easy it's okay button, and he just put like a it's okay button the size of a state out there for everyone to touch and push, and like it's just so discouraging, like corrosive, like you know, you and I, like I've spent 10 months to get 5,500 subscribers one by one, you know, coming in here on my weekends, spending all my time doing this shit. And it's just like with one dude at his laptop, he's you know, he's done more damage than I ever could do the wrong way. And it pisses me off to high hell.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you know, having a platform is a nice advantage. One data point, though, is that I guess, you know, people sent it to you. It struck a nerve with the people you know, but nobody sent it to me, and I didn't see it on social media either. So I literally just heard about it from you. So I think maybe some perspective is that, like, maybe it is just part of the constant drip of articles on both sides. I mean, at the same time as that happened, we also saw Yoshua Bengio and Jeff Hinton teamed up. I forgot the details, but they teamed up to support SB 1047 and say that it's kind of the minimum we need, right? So I do think you're seeing stuff happening on both sides.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I just feel like the people I want to convince have never heard the name Jeffrey Hinton or Yoshua Bengio.
Right.
And they have heard New York Times and they have heard David Brooks. And this was an AI pause for them to be like, oh, all that shit I'm hearing about it being bad, pause. New York Times said it's okay. When David Brooks, you know, reposts, maybe I'll reconsider.
It's really a shame. I mean, you know, maybe we can send him the clip of Senator Mitt Romney. There's like a kind of unguarded clip where he's like, AI terrifies me. You know, I'm like, thank you, Mitt Romney. You're right.
Oh my God. I mean, you know, it's like, so I want to go through I want to go through his article sentence by sentence and paragraph by paragraph. Sure. I'm going to read it. We're just going to pick it apart. I want to surgically dissect this thing until what is left is a slurry of words on the ground that have been liquefied, because it is such a fucking disaster, this thing. Okay. All right. So I'm going to let's do it. David starts out. A lot of my humanistic and liberal arts-oriented friends are deeply worried about artificial intelligence while acknowledging the possible benefits. So right now he is narrowing people who care about AI to humanistic, liberal-oriented friends of his.
It's so funny, and it's the first time I've heard doomers characterized that way, because the way people typically characterize AI doomers is like these nerds in their mom's basement on the internet who are like so weird, have no social life, and yeah, they're great at computer science and they like keep the world's internet infrastructure running, but they're engineering nerds. And now he's like, my humanities fuzzy friends. It's like, okay, sure, whatever. It's like, maybe just stop characterizing people and doing ad hominem attacks. Maybe just
Yeah.
cut those out altogether.
Like what I don't even humanistic liberal arts type is that, what is it, like Trader Joe's goer or something? Like what is he even fucking
Right.
talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so then he
But
continues.
you know what? I think it's a reference to like maybe effective altruists, right? The kind of people who are buying mosquito bed nets because those losers just want to save the most human lives because they feel good about doing that.
Okay. All right. So he goes on, I'm a humanistic and liberal arts type myself, but I'm optimistic while acknowledging the dangers. So when we get to the end of the article, I want to discuss whether we feel like he's acknowledged the dangers.
Right.
And I also we're going to discuss the term optimism, because I don't believe if
Yeah.
you are driving a car off the edge of the Grand Canyon, it is optimistic to be like, yes, we're going to be fine.
I agree.
So next paragraph, I'm optimistic paradoxically because I don't think AI is going to be as powerful as many of its evangelists think it will be. I don't think AI is ever going to be able to replace us. Ultimately, it will simply be a useful tool. In fact, I think instead of replacing us, AI will complement us. In fact, it may make us free to be more human.
Yeah, it's a nice thought, and I think it's even accurate for like the next couple years, right? I mean, I actually tend to, if you ask me, hey, Liron, how do you think the trajectory is going to go before AI becomes super intelligent and uncontrollable? You can draw a distinction between AI and AGI. So I've been trying to use AGI as the scary word. Like I'm pro AI, I'm anti AGI. In the times when we only have AI, not AGI, I think AI is great. I hope we get more AI because it's super convenient. It's helping automate tasks. Sure, it might put some graphic designers out of business, but it might make other graphic designers more productive, and it might find other creative tasks for the ones who went out of business. Like, I'm totally fine with that, right? Like, I'm not that worried about like the normal tech progression of AI before AGI. So if that's how David Brooks is imagining it, just AI and not AGI, then fine. Then I get where he's coming from.
And I agree with all that. I think that, this world he's talking about is a possible outcome where humans are better and have more time in this thing. But I also feel like this is totally disingenuous, this paragraph, because he's talking about all of us having more free time and he's not really dealing with the job loss issue. Like
Sure.
the way we all have more free time is because everyone's fucking unemployed.
Right. And I do think that the end game would be everybody unemployed just because the AI is better than humans at every skill. I do think that's the end game, but at that point we're on the AGI side of things. And when we're on the AGI side of things, I just have the more pressing concern of that the world is a big fireball. So at that point, you see what I'm saying? So there's never really a scenario where I see unemployment as the thing to get freaked out about.
No, totally. But I feel like if you're making this case that like it's so great and don't be afraid, like you might be permanently unemployed in the next few years, is not something that we should like not mention.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think you have a good point, right? Because even though I'm telling you how I factor the world, where I'm either worried about doom or I'm optimistic about the next few years, but I think it's totally reasonable for people who currently work in, let's say, customer service or any job where you kind of see the knife coming, right? And just to be like, well, this sucks. Like, where am I going to get money before the world ends or before AI gives us all universal and basic income? I think that's a very valid question because I personally know real people who lost their job and got replaced by AI. So I agree that it's insensitive of David Brooks to not at least be like, hey, there's some level of a problem here.
Yeah. All right. He goes on. This we're getting good here. Many fears about AI are based on an underestimation of the human mind. David loves humans. David thinks he's very special. David thinks he's a special man.
I mean, yeah, you got to be careful not to underestimate the human mind. You got to be careful not to overestimate the human mind, right? And you also got to be careful not to underestimate the space of possible minds, right? This is a point that I come back to a lot, which is that like the universe is a very hackable place. It's a very engineerable place. And we as humans, we're pretty good engineers, but it's possible to be a much better than human engineer. I feel like that's the part in David Brooks's mental model which is missing. I don't think that he realizes that engineering is a spectrum that goes way above John von Neumann and Werner von Braun and Peter Beck of Rocket Lab and Elon Musk. Like engineering goes way higher than even those humans, right? There's a very, very high limit to how much you could be a good engineer.
Yeah, not for David. He goes on, some people seem to believe that the mind is like a computer. It's all just information processing, algorithms all the way down. So of course machines are going to eventually overtake us. This is an impoverished view of who humans are. This is an impoverished view of who humans are.
Yeah, oh geez. I mean, yeah, he's really derailing here, unfortunately, because like if you look at most jobs, most white collar jobs, most jobs that you can perform at a desk or perform remotely, all your boss is paying you for is information processing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. He says the Canadian scholar expressed a much more accurate view of the human mind last year in the journal Liberties. Quote, what we do is not processing, it is not computation, it is not data analysis. It is distinctively, incorrigibly human activity that is a complex combination of conscious and unconscious, rational, intuitive, logical, and emotional reflection.
I mean, how does your boss know that the work you're getting paid for was conscious or reflective? Like it just needs, typically your job just has criteria that you have to meet, and we have evidence that AI is capable of learning and meeting those criteria. So if you tell me, hey, you can hire the conscious human worker for $50 an hour, or you can hire the unconscious AI and you can't even tell which is which based on their output, and the AI costs 10 cents, as an employer, I'm just going to hire the AI, right? So the conscious, it's a distinction without a pay difference.
Totally. And consciousness itself is such a, unknown science as it is, right? To say that humans are conscious, but this other thing certainly won't be, doesn't really hold a lot of water for me. All right, David goes on.
And just as an observation, right? If you have an essay contest or a poetry writing contest, if you just take a human who's not very bright and who's not great at writing poetry, and then you take GPT-4 and you're like, okay, I want you to write a poem that's like reflective and deep and tell me what it's like to ponder nature. It's like, ironically, GPT-4 is going to give you a better, more convincing poem about pondering nature than the guy who's not very bright and doesn't write a lot of poems. So if there's a task to put a poem somewhere, who's going to get paid, right? Who's going to have that job?
Yep. David goes on, the brain is its own universe. Sometimes I hear tech people saying they are building machines that think like people. Then I report this ambition to neuroscientists, and their response is, that would be a neat trick because we don't know how people think. Okay.
Yeah.
I would agree there, right? It's all black box a little bit.
We don't know how people think, but we know what outputs we want to pay them for, and we know how we want to interact with them, right? And the AI is a drop-in replacement for where we need humans, right? So that's, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. When you talk about the human brain being a black box, it's an excellent point, and it ties closely to the reason why AI is going to get uncontrollable, because we never understood intelligence. All we understood was like, hey, look, there's a button I can push that can get me more intelligence, even though I don't understand intelligence. And it's going to self-assemble like a black box. And I'm going to push that button. It's like, wait, what the heck? Like that's right. So that's when I think about the human brain being a black box, I think about uncontrollability, but I don't think about like, that's why we can't build AIs to replace humans. Like we still can. We still have a button that can build something to beat something we don't understand.
Yep. This bigger, high performing black box beats this smaller, lower performing black box. What's happening inside?
Exactly, right. Yeah, we have a black box factory, basically. We can make bigger, more powerful black boxes.
Black box. What's the fucking difference? Like,
right.
Yeah. All right. The human mind isn't just predicting the next word in a sentence. It evolved to love and bond with others, to seek the kind wisdom that is held in the body, to physically navigate within nature and avoid the dangers therein, to pursue goodness, to marvel at and create beauty, to seek and create meaning.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a nice poetic description of humanity, right? Like it's and it's, I think it evokes like that these are things that we like. These are things that I'd like to preserve, and it's all great, but it's kind of wishful thinking because it's not connected to like, why will that help us survive? It's right. It's like, I like it, but it's not as powerful as the AIs we're building.
Yeah. Goes on, AI can impersonate human thought because it can take all the ideas that human beings have produced and synthesize them into strings of words or collages of image that make sense to us. But that doesn't mean the AI mind is like the human mind. The AI mind lacks consciousness, understanding, biology, self-awareness, emotions, moral sentiments, agency, a unique worldview based on a lifetime of distinct and never to be repeated experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to see a pattern in how he argues, which is basically like, look, AIs are one thing, humans are another thing. Let me tell you all these different properties of humans. Consciousness, they're made out of cells, and the cells use chemicals to signal each other. So he's kind of just like listing properties of humans, and he's like, look, it's kind of different with AIs. So it's just two different things, everybody. So it's fine. We'll just coexist. But at the end of the day, there's only one world, right? There's only one agent that can win if there's any kind of competition for resources. If one party sees it as a competition, then it's a competition. The AI is on track to potentially see things as a competition. It's coming for you, right? And so when he's talking about like, hey, we don't predict the next word, we want to like love, right? And like and feel. It's like that's all great, but what do you do when your computer shuts down because the AI took it over, right? It's like that's the war on the table here.
Yeah. A lot of human knowledge is the kind of knowledge that, say, babies develop. It's unconscious and instinctual, but AI has access only to conscious language. About a year ago, the Ohio State University scholar did a podcast during which he reeled off some differences between human thinking and AI thinking. He argued that AI can do correlations, but that it struggles with cause and effect. It thinks in truth or falsehood, but is not a master at narrative. It is not good at comprehending time. Like, dude.
Yeah. So, or sorry, guys.
No, please. No, to me, it was like, anytime you're talking about AI systems, you should be talking not just about what is happening this second, but what is in the reasonably near future.
Right. Yeah. Exactly, right. So I want to make 2 points. One is I wanted to look at the distinction you made, conscious versus unconscious. It's actually pretty easy to find unconscious behavior in an AI. I mean, not the same as human unconsciousness, but analogous. I mean, when you see an AI emit a string of tokens, that's not necessarily representative of what's going on in all the hidden layers, right? I mean, we're talking about a deep neural network that has like hundreds of layers. And yeah, the last layer is it tells you the numerical index of a token, but you don't get to see how the other layers are processing and what information is being processed to get you to that last token. Not only that, but there's AI architectures already that people have been testing where it's like there's a bunch of silent tokens. So it's like it outputs 10 silent tokens and then the token that you get to see because it's just like, and that's called like we're letting it think longer. So it's not like this AI is purely conscious, purely explicit, and that makes it safe and easy to understand. No, not at all. There's plenty of blackness to this black box. Plenty of blackness. In fact, quantitatively, probably more blackness and more inscrutability than there is to the human brain. There's more parameters, more weights. So his conscious versus unconscious distinction, I think, is completely misguided and useless. And then to get to the second point, your point, which is your point is like, hey, what does it matter? He's just saying things about the AI today, right? So all he's doing is saying like, hey, look, there's an off switch on the back of this computer. I can shut it off, right? I mean, that's not literally what he's saying, but he's just pointing like, hey, look, we're not dead today. And I'm like, yeah, great. That's nobody's saying we're dead today. We're just saying it's on a trajectory to be better. And then he's saying when he points out weaknesses, when he's like, all it's doing is trying to predict the next word and it's not getting all the different causal problems right. So first of all, it gets a lot of causal problems right. So it's inaccurate to say that it doesn't understand causality because you can give it a college level test with a bunch of novel scenarios that require understanding causality and it's going to get a lot of them right, potentially even better than the average college student. So the times when you get to accuse it of not understanding causality, normally they look more like, well, there's this really hard problem and like a lot of people would fail in different ways. But if you isolate the step where the AI failed, it's because it got the causality wrong. And that's fair. Like there still are weaknesses. That's why it's not taking over yet. But to claim that that's a robust failure, to claim that GPT-10, every version of the AI we ever build will still fail in this causality step, I think that's totally baseless. I think we're all sitting here clueless, right? We should be biting our nails to see what the AI does understand in the next generation.
Absolutely. All right. This is a good one. David goes on, like everybody else, I don't know where this is heading. We agree on that. David, that is one we can underline. We agree.
Yeah.
When air conditioning was invented, I would not have predicted, oh, wow, this is going to create modern Phoenix. But I do believe lots of people are getting overly sloppy in attributing all sorts of human characteristics to the bots. And I do agree that with the view that AI is an ally and not a rival, a different kind of intelligence, more powerful than us in some ways, but narrower. I do agree with the view that AI is an ally, not a rival.
I mean, the air conditioning example, I just want to point out that like the logic is incredibly simple. So the logic would just be like, hey, in the ideal of an air conditioner, it's you flick a switch and you get to control the temperature. If that existed, what would happen? well, every place that normally doesn't have a good ambient temperature suddenly is livable. Like he doesn't think that he could make that inference, right? And I'm not saying that's like 100% confidence of an inference, but it's not something that hard to reason about because it's based on a deep and simple and robust principle, right? Humans like a certain temperature. They can't go outside if it's not that temperature, but if air conditioning can make them live at the temperature, then they will, right? So it's like, isn't there some lesson you can draw that, like, sure enough, Phoenix became livable thanks to air conditioning? The analogy here would be like, okay, you have super intelligence, it can outperform humanity. So like the obvious conclusion to that simple logic is like, okay, well, then if it's cheaper than humans, then it's going to take humans' job. Or if it's better at outmaneuvering humans in situations where you like take power and take resources, then it's going to do that. Like the logic is not that hard. It's not, and so was the logic of like predicting that Phoenix would be livable once you got to see air conditioners.
Yeah. This is where it gets real weird and where he starts to tip his hand a little bit as a New York Times writer. Obviously the current models, writing is the thing they might have attacked first. Who knew that was going to happen? I did not see that coming, but it's like, if you are a writer, if you're messing with these models and your eyebrows are not pinned back, you are not doing it enough. Right. So here he goes. It's already helping people handle odious tasks like writing bureaucratic fundraising requests and marketing pamphlets. First of all, there's a shit ton of people that are employed writing marketing pamphlets. I know many of them. Like, he may consider it an odious task that is, easily thrown away. I don't know that's the case for everyone, but that's fine. Marketing pamphlets or utilitarian emails to people they don't really care about. It's probably going to be a fantastic tutor that will transform education and help humans all around the world learn more. I don't disagree with that. It might make expertise nearly free. So people in underserved communities will have access to medical, legal, and other sorts of advice. It will help all of us make more informed decisions.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's if you're on the AI side of the AI AGI divide, like I think that's a pretty good optimistic summary of like how AI is making life better. I mean, I'm a pretty big GPT user myself, and I love asking it questions about domains that I know very little about, because my favorite thing about using GPT is that I can ask it a question that I feel like is like a pretty unique question. Like it may never have gotten that exact question before, but it's like how I'm thinking about it. Like, oh, really? Like this thing, I've got this skin issue and I do this treatment. Like, why don't people give this kind of treatment? And I can I made up that question on the spot, but it can like answer in a way that's like very personalized to my question. And sometimes it'll give me a compliment like, oh, you're right. That is a good point. And people say this and this. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's like such a great synthesis of the information. So like, I agree with David Brooks that it's going to have all these advantages. In the particular scenario he painted where it's bringing medicine to everybody, it's like, are you sure the doctors aren't going to suffer, right? Like it does seem like a lot of what doctors are doing is getting replaced, and that does seem like an unemployment risk. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, there's a lot of good things and it's probably a net good.
Agreed. But to gloss over free expertise, we're going to go from a world where we educate our kids for 22 years to give them some sort of expertise in something. We go through great, actual financial sacrifice to make this all happen. And then on the other side of it, that expertise is just going to be universally free everywhere. It's like the water in the spigot. It's just everywhere. And you're writing for the New York Times and you're not going to consider the downwind effects of that is madness to me.
Yeah. I mean, look, the piece is pretty bad because it's not thoughtful. It's not considered. It very much is him. It's like a vibe, right? He's basically saying like, look, I feel good, right? Like the AI, I see things about the AI that I like, and I choose to just focus on those and let me brighten your day by telling you things that make me feel good about the AI, right? But it's just bad as a piece of analysis. It's not representing the other side at all.
Absolutely. And nowhere in the entire thing does he say, here's someone who is concerned about risk who I talk to and hear their thoughts. Not at all. So he goes on, it may be good for us liberal arts grads. Peter Thiel recently told the podcaster Tyler Cowen that he believed AI would be worse for math people than it would be for word people because the technology was getting a lot better at solving math problems than verbal exercises.
It's a hard distinction to draw, right? I mean, because it's like it's hard to take jobs and know how they break down into verbal versus math. Sometimes you get surprised, like a programmer, you'd think maybe a programmer is more math, but like who knows? I mean, I think it's even hard to describe. It's hard to even draw the boundary. I think so many people like do this and fail. Right? Even what he's saying, like, okay, I can do everything except causality. Like anytime somebody tries to draw a circle, they're very likely to get surprised in like 1 year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, it may also make the world more equal. In coding and other realms, studies so far show that AI improves the performance of less accomplished people more than it does the more accomplished people. If you're an immigrant trying to write in a new language, AI takes your abilities to up to average. It will probably make us vastly more productive and wealthier. A 2023 study by Harvard Business School professors in coordination with a Boston consulting group found that consultants who worked with AI produced 40% higher quality work results on 18 different work tasks.
Yeah, I think the key distinction there would be like, are you missing some secondary skill that you can now patch in thanks to AI? If so, you're benefiting. I think the perfect example is like an immigrant who's like a really talented contractor doing a job, but then when they write an email, they sound terrible because English is their second language, and now they can sound quite professional. That's like the ultimate case because they're patching in English writing, which is like a secondary skill of their job. On the other hand, if the AI is somehow doing the contract job, right, then it's not, it's patching in for the person who hired you. It's patching in you, right? So it's the question is just which side are you on in terms of your own skill and how you create value.
Yeah. All right. He's bringing it home. Of course, bad people will use AI to do harm, but most people are pretty decent and will use AI to learn more, innovate faster, and produce advances like medical breakthroughs. But AI's ultimate accomplishment will be to remind us who we are by revealing what it can't do. It will compel us to double down on all the activities that make us distinctly human, taking care of each other, being a good teammate, reading deeply, exploring daringly, growing spiritually, and finding kindred spirits and having a good time.
Yeah, I mean it's actually it's kind of a scary position to be in where you have to find out who you are by seeing how what each generation of AI still leaves behind. So it's like, we used to think that we were like workhorses, right, who had to like use our bodies to move around heavy things, and now we know we can use machinery to move heavy things. So now we know that we're not like workhorses anymore. So we learned that as technology progressed. And hey, we just learned that when we like spend a long time writing an article and summarizing things, it turns out that summarization, that's not who we are because AI can do that. It's like, well, I think you're going to discover that who we are is becoming less and less. And when you casually name things like, oh, we're better at taking care of each other, I don't know, man. If you give me a really good humanoid robot that's like really good at keeping me comfortable, even for like hospice care, you think, oh, you need like the human touch for hospice care. I don't know if it's just like changing your bedpan like really
Yeah,
efficiently, right? Like tucking you in really efficiently. Do you really need the human to come in? Like it sounds like
right.
you're getting the job done with a robot.
And the robot never sleeps, never's in a bad mood, comes in the middle of the night,
Right.
works
Exactly.
24
So
hours a
I
day.
think you're gonna find that the window is narrowing, and at the end of the day, it's like, okay, who I am, I'm like a brain in a vat that can like feel an emotion, right? Like you might get reduced to very little, and then even then, it's like, okay, well, I've programmed the AI to feel a stronger emotion than you feel. So now what?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So he wraps it up here with a Keats quote. Quote, I am certain of nothing but of the holiness of the heart's affections and the truth of imagination. End quote. Keats observed. Amid the flux of AI, we can still be certain of that. End scene for David.
I mean, yeah, like affection is real, emotions are real, love is real. I mean, the only problem is just that like it doesn't mean that you get to control the future or have any leverage over what's happening and how you get disempowered, right? So what we'd like to do is we'd like to coexist with an AI and not accidentally be wiped out. I think if I was sure that AI would peacefully coexist with us and not wipe us out, then I'd be like, okay, great. Yeah, let's keep having more positive human life. I think the problem at hand that he's not even engaging with is like, we're about to deal with a really tough force here, but he dismisses that. He's saying like, hey, it can't do a causality. You can just predict the next token. So we're all good. And given that we're all good, here's why life is good, right? So it's just like, we're already talking past each other at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And like just the worst part of the whole thing is like the article title, the whole thing is like many people fear AI, they shouldn't. And
Yeah, I mean
they're going to be
that's a
literally
disingenuous title, yeah, because
most
he didn't
people will
actually
just
say
read
why we
that.
should. Yeah, it's sad.
Um So I think you are an expert in two things related to this, Liron. You're a great an, person to analyze someone's ability to argue and the arguments they've made, and you also have sort of deep technical knowledge in the area of AI. So give David a letter grade on his piece on either one of those criteria, either, truthfulness to the realities of AI and also to the art of the argument.
Let's see. I'll give it an F plus. Look, Mom, I got an F plus.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
I mean, it's just I got to give it an F just because it's like, it said shouldn't, right? It acted like it was going to make an argument, and then it really failed to engage. I mean, if you talk to any doomer, like you're talking past the very core claims of the doomer. And I mean, the reason for the plus is just because, like, he touched on some things of like, hey, like the positive effects he described, especially before we get to AGI, then he's got a point, right? So he's saying some things that I think are reasonable, but the reason I can't even give him a D is because I just think in terms of the standards of an argument, if you want the referee to say that you're eligible to participate in discourse, I don't think that he met minimum requirements to be like, here's an actual argument rather than like, here's some vibes where I'm just like closing my eyes and ignoring the other side. I feel like it's more of the latter.
Absolutely. The biggest gaping hole in the Swiss cheese word salad David served up the New York Times readers is this. He acts like the AI we have right now is where it stops. He seems to be unaware that the daily advances of AI have surprised everyone, including its creators. He seems to be unaware that today's AI is a toddler, and teenage AI might well wreck a lot more than the family car. David, you didn't even mention artificial general intelligence at all. Respectfully, sir, what the actual fuck? You wrote a whole article about AI risk with no mention of risk or even the letters AGI. So, friends, I need a favor. Let's make sure this video gets in front of David Brooks. Share it, post it, email David your concerns directly. His email is dabrooks@nytimes.com. Okay. Enough with David Brooks. I've had a hell of a week. I want to share it with you. So I've talked to you about my favorite dog I have ever had, my baby Dolly. She is half Golden Retriever, half Bernese Mountain Dog. She lives in my house with her mom. She was born in my son's bedroom 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago. So she was throwing up her food. So I took her to the vet. Long story short, they did an x-ray, and she had a diaphragmatic hernia in her chest that had been growing her whole life, and it pushed all of her major organs from where they should be in her body forward in her chest cavity, and all of her major organs were out of place. Her intestines, which should be in her stomach, were in her throat, and they were pressing on her trachea, causing her to not be able to eat food and throw it back up. This video here is the night before surgery. I spent a night with her thinking that it was our last night, very likely, and maybe she was just a flash of light on the water, a butterfly passing through our lives. She had major high-risk surgery. They moved all her organs back to where they belong, and it worked perfectly. I'm so thrilled to report that. She's doing incredibly well. She's strong. She wants to run wild, but she has 4 weeks of severe motion restrictions, so wish me luck with that. Here's why I'm telling you this. 2 years ago, I would have fallen apart and cried and just fallen apart when the doctor shocked me with that diagnosis. But AI risk has made me mentally tougher. A lot. As long as humans still have a chance, today was a good day, even if some other really bad things happen. And you can get there with me. I know you can. Smile, humans. Smile. No matter what. We are here, and we are alive. Okay. So for those new to this show, the year is 2024. We don't know how long we have to live. So we live every day like it's our last, and we end every show with something I call the celebration of life, just something that makes us thrilled to be alive. So 2 days after Dolly's surgery, I had plans to go back to Vegas, to the Sphere, to see Dead & Company with some of my favorite people on the planet. Apologies again for the poor camera work and editing. It's nearly impossible to capture this experience of the Sphere with a cell phone camera, but it'll give you a feel for the place for sure. I'm not sure I'm ever in a room with more positive energy than this one. It is a magical place. Okay, my friends, please remember, AI risk is not someone else's problem. It is yours, and it is mine. Quoting Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. For humanity, I'm John Sherman. I will see you right back here next week.